Fentanyl is a Schedule II narcotic.
Fentanyl is a very dangerous drug.
Fentanyl is lethal.
We're finding it in more than half of all the heroin in our county.
Fentanyl's a really big problem, I think just about everywhere on the East Coast.
What's on the streets today is not what has been there in the past.
When I first started using heroin, fentanyl wasn't really in the picture. I also noticed that there's a lot less people overdose back then.
Fentanyl can basically be in any drug.
Many people have accidentally died of an overdose.
Now it seems like every other week on Facebook, or you hear somebody somewhere dying that I knew, or somebody who knows me.
The reason for that is fentanyl. You don't know what you're going to get.
By the time you're done watching this film, someone will have died of an overdose.
I think about him every day. He was my best friend. He was an awesome guy. He looked out for everyone. He wasn't even doing heroin or anything, and he received a batch of cocaine that was laced with fentanyl.
We have had overdoses where we thought it was cocaine, and it wasn't cocaine, it was fentanyl.
He knew that a lot of stuff was starting to be cut with fentanyl. There's a lot of fake pills going around, fake Xanax pills. His brother went to check on him and found him unresponsive, covered in vomit. By the time he was in the hospital, he was brain dead. So his mother made the decision to pull the plug an hour later. We're never gonna let his memory die, That's our boy.
I called him my little helper. He would get up in the morning, get himself breakfast, even though he was only like 5. I worked full time, and Walter would set his sister up in the high chair and he would feed her for me while I was getting ready for work. He had the brightest smile. He had the brightest eyes. I could see a future for him. I could see a future, and it all ended. He overdosed. He said he knew how much he could use. He knew his limit, that he would not overdose, until I got that devastating call that he had passed. He was younger than us. How dare this happen? I guess it was about 3 months later we got the toxology, and it was fentanyl.
So if a user is used to using half of a dosage packet, the next time they could use a half a dosage packet, it could have a lethal dose of fentanyl in there. What they may have been used to in the past, it doesn't matter anymore.
When you're in active addiction, you really don't care. Like, you want a bag of an opiate. No one tells you that there's this much fentanyl or this much heroin in it.
Every single dosage unit, every single one that's on the street could have a lethal dose.
When I was in high school, I didn't really drink or smoke weed or anything like that. I'd say when I became like a senior, I kind of started experimenting. And my addiction really took off when I was in college. I got offered to do some painkillers with a friend of mine. I didn't really know what they were. And the first time I took it, I knew that was like what I wanted to do. I ended up doing painkillers for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years before I switched over to heroin. And then I had a horrible, horrible heroin addiction that lasted the better part of 9 years. And just like any other addictive substance, like, you may choose to do it the first time, but it's in my belief that you kind of lose that power of choice.
Jesse was my younger brother, but also my best friend. He was very smart. He cared a lot about his grades, and he studied really hard. He got a full ride to college. We started to notice differences in his personality and also his grades. Jesse was experimenting with pills and party drugs like cocaine or ecstasy in college. Then there was a couple of incidents, like accidents that he got into, a car accident, and finally there was an incident where he could not deny that this had happened, that he was involved in this. So he admitted it. He used heroin by snorting, and I think that this time there happened to be fentanyl in his heroin, and somebody poisoned him. I didn't even know what fentanyl was. I know that this took over his life, and I know that someone gave him this drug that he didn't know what it was, and I know that he didn't want to die that day. Our family is not the same without him. There will never be a day that this will be okay, that this will get better.
If you're buying heroin you don't know if fentanyl's in it. If you're buying cocaine, you don't know if fentanyl's in it. If you're buying Xanax, you're taking pills, you don't know if fentanyl's in it.
Fentanyl is being cut in just about everything.
Fentanyl is approximately 100 times stronger than morphine. The amount that can kill you is an amount that you cannot even see. It's a couple little grains.
Everyone loved Craig. He had what we think is a charmed life.
Craig and I had known each other since kindergarten. Craig was the one, if we thought someone was going to make it big, Craig was going to make it big.
He had a very good job, was making a good salary. Craig's roommate, Sean, found a packet of heroin. It was the last thing that we would have ever thought of.
April 6th was the day.
April 6th was like any other day. It was a Friday.
I had made the breakfast, brought the coffee downstairs, and walked over to his room.
We were going out to dinner that night.
What I had found was Craig on his bed, laying on his side.
We were just sitting in our living room, in the room we're in right now.
So I tried to shake him awake a little bit.
We were going to watch television.
It wasn't until I actually felt for his pulse and felt the chill on his skin that I knew that it had already happened.
We see a police officer go up the street and we thought, that's odd. And then we see another police officer pull up into the front of our house. They asked, "Are you the Davidsons?" And I just looked at them and I said, "Craig." And they said, "Your son overdosed and he died." And we were numb. We didn't cry, we were numb.
Having found Craig shortly after his passing is something I wish on nobody. It's the most sobering moment anyone can have in their entire life.
The first thing my mother said was, "You're supposed to be burying us, not your kid."
The thought of having to come up to a parent who has lost a child is absolutely the worst thing that law enforcement has to deal with.
My reaction is to want to explain to them, listen, we're going to find out who sold them this drug. You know what they say? We don't care. I just want my son back. I just want my daughter back. That's what I want.
Brenda, take one.
My son used to tease me all the time. When he turned 37, he would always joke with me that I was almost about to have a 40-year-old. How does it feel, Mom? How does it feel you're gonna have a 40-year-old? And I'm like, Garrett, don't say that. I'm not gonna get to have a 40-year-old. I don't know what I'll do on his 40th birthday. The night that he died, I think that Garrett thought that he was probably obtaining Xanax or cocaine. Fentanyl is everywhere. It's everywhere. If you think you're getting a Xanax from your buddy, it's not. It's fentanyl, and it's going to kill you.
I'm a part of the canine unit. I have a Dutch Shepherd. His name is Jax. So I come in contact with narcotics a lot. It's my primary job. It is an absolute game changer now with fentanyl.
Sean was my grandson, best friend. The drug that Sean died from was laced with fentanyl. We were supposed to meet the next morning at 7:30, and usually he would call me 6:30. Are you coming over? And no calls. And at that point, I felt something was wrong. I ran over to the hotel where he was staying and banged on the doors, couldn't get into the doors. And I just went to the window and I popped open the window and I could see he was gone. He died somewhere around 7:30 that morning, probably. This is Sean. It's a cross filled with his ashes. This is what I have left. That's it. Nothing more.
You do not know what has been mixed into any substance that you're buying on the street. Not even once can you just try something and think, I'm going to be okay.
If you're just using coke or marijuana or ecstasy or anything like that, like there's definitely the possibility that it's going to be in there.
It was nothing like I expected it. There was a note on my door from the Branchburg police telling me to call the Ocean Medical Center that my son was there. And I drove down there and I found him on life support. The neurologists kept coming in and doing these tests to see if he had any brain activity. I took pictures of him to show him when he woke up. And I have those pictures still. The morning of the 23rd, we got another last opinion, and it happened to be his 24th birthday. I watched the sunrise that morning and thought about the day he was born. And I guess in my heart, I knew that that would be the day that he would not be on this earth anymore. Dylan was hooked up to a lot of equipment, and they had us leave so they could take everything off. When we came back in, it was just him, my beautiful boy, just laying in the bed. And I just held him and I laid my head on his chest. And I laid there until his heart stopped beating. And it was beautiful for me because I got to hear his heartbeat coming into the world. And I listened to it when it stopped. It just felt like it was me and him together. That's how we did everything. He was my son and he was my world.
I want to be very clear. A person that ingests something that they got from a friend, that they got off the street, they got from their neighbor, they don't know what it is that they're putting into their system, and it could kill them.
I've lost more friends than I could really count.
Watch out for certain people because not everyone is your friend. The dealer definitely has a part in it because he knows what he's putting into that.
But it's the cost of doing business. If you're gonna do drugs, like this is what can happen to you.
An individual under peer pressure may do drugs one time, and that'll be a lethal dose of fentanyl. It's that one time that's killing thousands of people.
Certain kids think that they could just try something one time, but half of the time they don't know what they're ingesting. It could be fake pills, it could be fake anything, and it could be laced with fentanyl, and then that one time could be it.
If your child is involved in drug use, I would be concerned. It is life and death.
I've overdosed 5 times. I just am tired of the same cycle, the same waking up in the ambulance, spending all my money to the dealer, lying, manipulating, doing anything to get money. I was just tired of that, and I was tired of seeing the look on my parents' face every time they would come and see me in the hospital bed. I believe I can beat this. I want to live. I want to experience all the things that my father told me I could experience that is available in life. I want to meet somebody, fall in love, hopefully, have a family someday, have a nice paying job, have all the things that my father gave me. A lot of people want just to see me alive and healthy and sober.
Every person that is dying is someone's child.
People think that it's never going to happen to their child, their brother.
The disease of addiction doesn't discriminate. It'll get you. It'll get anyone. It doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing. Eventually, you're going to realize that you're in a hole and it's going to be too late and you're going to be addicted.
We're in the middle of an epidemic. We need to do something different. Something has to change.